Okay, straight into today. So, big mask off moment. I covered this with a short on YouTube as well, but this big mask off moment recently with regards to BBC Question Time. The ever so compassionate, we need migrants dying on his sword for the third world hordes. Leader of the Greens, Zach Polanski, said that we need migration because I don't want to wipe people's bums. Outright admitting it's nothing to do with compassion, nothing to do with any kind of empathy or anything like that. It has been, and it is and always has been, about importing a third world slave class, which is not only just very disingenuous and very damaging to the British people, because frankly, a lot of people would be in jobs in care where these things would be applicable and stuff like that if they were paid enough, right? The whole thing is to drive them down, to make it harder for them to own homes, to have families, depopulation, all of that very, very sinister agenda, how it all plays in. But even you can see in the BBC audience, their heads are in their hands. They cannot believe that he has said this. And I said in the short, it's either he said something he wasn't supposed to say, in which he's shown he doesn't have the political know-how to not say things that he's supposed to say when it's in a high-pressure situation. That's not what we need from somebody like a prime minister, from a prime ministerial figure, right? And those who are then actually honest, right, who actually stake their position despite all the shit that they get, like Rupert Lowe, they don't have any of that trouble, right? There's actually authenticity there, or at least it seems anyway. Certainly out of the people we have in Parliament, it seems that Rupert Lowe has by far the most authenticity, right? Or he said it, and this is how he actually thinks, and he actually thought that people thought that this was a good thing to hear, in which case, obviously, his barometer is way off. It's completely ill-calibrated. Another point that completely disqualifies him from being put in any position of political power. Again, explains then why all of these far-left radicals that are intent on destroying our country and destroying our people rally to people like Zach Polanski. Here's that clip if you haven't seen it, ladies and gentlemen. All that you need to know. So again, outright admitting that the whole point we need them. Bear in mind, completely ignoring the fact that if 1 in 5 are migrant origin, 4 in 5 are not. Where's the credit? Where's the credit for the native British worker, which I saw somebody pointed out? So if 1 in 5 are of migrant origin, that means 4 in 5 aren't, right? The argument may be that then the 4 in 5 are a lot more important, maybe. And that, as we've seen, more and more people have come in from outside, right? Things don't tend to get better. Things don't tend to get better. They tend to get a hell of a lot worse. It's just the reality. It's almost like being within someone's, in-group, having that in-group and having that tribe, so to speak, is just the natural way humans work. And here into human nature tends to make things work better. So again, it was relieving, however, to see this absolute mask-off moment because I saw a lot of people, it's absolutely astroturfed, obviously, but he was being pushed to the friggin' moon, and it's just refreshing to see, relieving to see, rather, that they've had this beautiful, beautiful mask-off moment, and then everybody can see how this all ties together. Oh, you're importing third worlders because that's what you see them as. They're only fit to wipe people's bums and all stuff like that. That's all you see them as. Right, it's the same mentality as any slave-driven mentality, slave-driving economy mentality was. Who's going to pick our crops? Who's going to do this? Who's going to do that? Who's going to do all the things that we see are beneath us, right? For pitiful, a lot less wages than you would have to pay the native British worker. And that's exactly why. And that's how it ties in with all other things then, because again, they can't have families, they can't get financial security, they can't get a house, all of these things, right? So it all plays in to that wider depopulation, very sinister agenda. And the BBC, again, coming from the same Question Time, I believe it was, absolutely worse than Pravda. Not only did they put on 4 pro-immigration voices on this one panel, right, and the only quasi-anti-immigrant voice was somebody from an immigrant background himself, right, from an ethnic minority, Zaya Yousaf. They actually put an illegal alien in the audience, feeding him information through a headset to give this pre-written script about the ECHR to try and, either generate sympathy or whatever. It went down like a lead balloon, from what I've seen. It went down like an absolute lead balloon. But this is where we are now. Our BBC, the quote-unquote British Broadcasting Company, will put an illegal alien that they literally say, you came over on a boat. That's what they literally say. They say, you came over on a boat. And he's like, yeah. And then has this script that he's not even being fed, not just being fed through the headphone, which you can see, or through one of those, I think they're called bone conduction headsets, right? It's being fed the information seemingly through one of them. But not only that, He's then reading it off his phone and still can't read it properly. And again, I get it. He's literally just come from a foreign country 2 minutes ago. Why is he on national TV where the BBC put him in a position where we're supposed to listen to him on dictating British foreign policy is technically foreign policy, but immigration policy? Why the hell are we doing this? This is how you see how bad the BBC really are. This is how bad they really are. Seems that the whole point is that they are very intent on giving us a very, very raw deal. A very, very raw deal, because they obviously, all of these NGOs, we'll get onto in a moment, got some very interesting clips to go over. They're hell-bent on bringing these people here. They are the gangsters, which we've been told that when Labour says smashing the gangs, not only is it a myth, because it seems that there's actually not really that much in terms of people smuggling gangs. It's all of these NGOs that are ferrying people over from Calais and all these things, right? As we'll get onto in a moment. They are the real gangsters. We were perfectly fine. And we have our own human rights legislation, which has already been, politicized and used against us anyway, right? But when we're not even able to deport, let alone do anything else with, right? We're not even able to deport foreign rapists and pedophiles and all of that, right? Because of a persecution they might get back home or because of what other amenities, right? It's not any good for us. Don't try and make the case that it's good for us. We have our eyes. We have our eyes. And that, in fact, is what led us to being, a lot of us feeling, as being dictated to by foreigners, is actually getting a little bit tiresome. But here's a better image that you can see now, ladies and gentlemen, which I'll bring up on screen for you. And you can see what I mean. That this here is quite clearly, so you can see it clear as day. I'll just zoom in just a little bit more and try and bring it down just a little bit. Bear with. There we are. Move it over this way a little bit. Okay, actually that's a bit too close. That's a bit too far away. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just trying to get it cropped so it comes up on screen. Okay, so here now, if I just move this over this way slightly and then crop it this way. Actually, no, it's because the image is a bit of a weird size. So here we go. This is where you'll see it now. Clear as day. Clear as day, right? Bring it up on screen. You can clearly see, sorry about that, it took me a little bit longer than I would have wanted to, the bone conduction headset wrapping all the way around the back of his head. And when you zoom the image out a little bit, you can find it in the comments of the clip that'll be linked down below. You can actually see the headset wrap all the way around it. You can see that the headset is clearly there. It's not your eyes deceiving you or anything like that, because it actually pushes the back part of his hair in, and you can see it pushes the back part of his hair in as well. Absolute gutter trash. And this is what, remember when people were defending the BBC as the best in journalism and the most trusted source in media and stuff like that, the way they talk about all other left-wing media outlets, because the left is the one that dominate all of these outlets and stuff like that in the modern day. Absolute lies. Absolute lies. And you see absolute lies in all of these left-wing coded medias all across the world, mind you. CNN in America is no different, when they're caught lying on air about a white man committing a crime, supposedly a very heinous crime, right? I'll give you the rundown now. Turns out it actually wasn't a white man. It was in fact the very opposite, but that didn't stop Jake Tapper on CNN from claiming that it was a white man that done this heinous crime, as Gerald on Louder Biscotta will give you the breakdown now.
Jake Tapper, my good friend Jake, never wants to be wrong. He always wants to make sure that he gives you the straight news. And he does, listen, not everybody does this, but he does his research, and he broke it down on CNN last night.
The FBI finally announced that they had arrested a suspect accused of planting pipe bombs near the Republican and Democratic National Committee headquarters the night before the January 6, 2021 Capitol attack. Brian Cole Jr., a 30-year-old white man from the D.C. suburbs, is charged with transporting an explosive device in interstate commerce and with malicious destruction by means of explosion.
I just pause it there a moment. So let's make that again. 30-year-old white man is what Jake Tapper said. And this is in reference to an attack that was going to happen outside of both Democratic and Republican back in 2021. And this was broadcast on CNN, as you saw on the date at the top left of the screen, December 4th of this year, right? So this is 4 years on. Well, 22, 23, 24. Yeah, 4 years on. Let's just make that right. here's the white man in question.
Wow. Jake Tapper thinks if you have a big house, you can't be anything but white.
And he lived in a nice neighborhood that was quiet with no crime.
Whoa.
So
Jake Tapper said no blacks in the suburbs.
Here's the white guy in question. No! What? Come on.
As you can tell, ladies and gentlemen, a pause on screen. It is not a white guy. Mr. Brian J. Cole Jr., who lives in a single-family house in Woodbridge, Virginia, Washington, D.C., suburb about 25 miles southwest of the Capitol Hill, with his mother and other family members. He was arrested and charged in connection with the explosives, which luckily did not detonate. He is a black guy. CNN, these left-wing media just think that that's how comfortable they've gotten with lying. That's how comfortable they've gotten with their agenda. The BBC has gotten so comfortable that nothing is going to come from this, right? They've gone so comfortable thinking that they're not going to have any repercussion, that the public are not going to hold them to account or anything like that. They're not going to cancel license fees, which luckily at the moment, luckily at the moment we are seeing record levels of cancelling license fees, which is a good thing, in my opinion. Tell me anywhere where you have to be paid to be you have to be forcibly paid to be propagandized. That's where we are in the UK. We're supposedly a free country. But you have here, they become so comfortable with lying because they think that people just aren't going to check. That's why they want to shut down all these independent medias and stuff like that, shut down podcasts, shut down shows like Steven Crowder, for example, in America, demonetized, deplatformed, all of this stuff, right? They call you Nazi, they call you all these different things in order to then kill you if it comes to that, right? That's why, again, we saw the ex-Antifa member. They don't call you a Nazi because you are a Nazi, and that's accurate, right? They call you a Nazi to justify killing you. And obviously the mainstream media does that all the time as well. But this is how comfortable they've gotten. This is how comfortable they've gotten. That's why, again, if you're paying the license fee, please stop. If you're paying the license fee, please stop. If you're doing anything to contribute to any of this stuff, it needs to stop. You have to vote. We have to really start voting, right, with our wallets. And that, again, potentially even come down to things like council tax and stuff like that, where, again, there's a lot of potential consequence comes down with that. But, again, ultimately, the government is only going to care. They're like an organised crime family. They only care when it hits them in their wallets. That's the only time that they care, right? If you enjoyed that clip, then make sure to go on over to the Voice of the Valleys X page at VOT_Valleys on X. We're also on Instagram at Voice of the Valleys. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, comment, all of that good stuff. Thank you so much, and we'll see you again soon. Godspeed.